Hello and welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program tutorial. And before we start today's tutorial, I just want to apologize for if my voice cracks up or coughing or anything, because I've been sick this whole week. But I think my voice is mostly back to normal, so we can make a new tutorial. So as you might see, we can see Jools and the sun above us. And we brought a rover to Laythe, I think you call it. So this tutorial will be on interplanetary rover missions, how to bring a rover to different planets, or in this case a moon. I've also sent one rover to Duna to test the capabilities of this rover. So this rover will be capable of going to almost all the planets in the Kerbal system. Actually, I think it will be able to go to every single one. I haven't tested them all, but I tested Duna and Laythe, and there was plenty of fuel left. And I made this rocket to be easy to use for beginners and more advanced players that want to go farther. So you can waste a lot of fuel, or you can get pretty far with all the fuel we have. So let's take a look at the rocket. So this is the rocket that will get you, or get your rover to most of the planets in the Kerbal system. So I'm not going to show you how I built this, but I will include a craft file so you can take a look. And I've used asparagus staging, which means that all the engines will take fuel from this, and I guess it will be this fuel tank first. Then they will detach and you will take fuel from these, then these, and then you will have the main engine left. And if we do this correctly, when we get into orbit, we will have this fuel tank left. And if you do it very fuel efficient, you can have almost half of this fuel tank left. For the mission, I went to Duna. I had this last stage, which will be, or its main purpose is to push you away from Kerbin. It's Kerbin escape stage. But when I went to Duna, this stage ran out just before re-entering Duna. So there, you have a lot of fuel to mess about and be on the safe side. Also, we have these two interplanetary fuel tanks, which will detach once they're empty. And then you have these nuclear engines with some more fuel if it's needed when going to different planets or moons. Then there's two solar panels that will give you power, because this is all drone parts. And lastly, we have the landing stage and the rover and the sky crane. So this landing stage is mostly meant for planets without an atmosphere, to get you close to the ground, slow the whole rover down to nice speed. Then you detach and you have the sky crane taking you the last distance down. When going to a planet with an atmosphere, this is not really needed, because you can use the parachutes here. But if it's somewhere with low atmosphere, it can be nice to have. I used it a little bit on Duna to stop the vertical or horizontal velocity. And the sky crane has a drogue chute and 4 normal chutes. And the drogue chute is for planets with a low atmosphere, so you can deploy it early and use as much of the atmosphere as possible. And then you have these to stop you when you get close to the ground. So yeah, I think that's most of this rocket. So let's start the tutorial. So the first thing you want to do when going to an interplanetary or doing an interplanetary mission is to check the phase angles, the most efficient places when the planets are aligned, I guess. Well, that was a horrible explanation. It's the angle between the planet Kerbin and the sun and the planet you want to go to. So when going to Jools, you want a 96 degree angle, 98.5 degree angle, sorry. So you want to make like a right angle here at the sun between, and that's mostly what you need to find out before going to a new planet. You can always go into orbit and then find a place, but the most efficient way is to find the phase angles before you start. I will include a link in the description to a website that has it. But I already warped until Jool was close to our 98.5 degree angle. So I'm setting it as a target just for later. I usually do the warping before launch because then you can warp full time and it goes a little faster. But that's probably the easiest too. And Duna is also nice because it's about 90 degrees, so you can just like do it with your hand or a piece of paper. You can also use mechanical jeb or some other program to tell you the phase angles, but this is a tutorial on how to do it stock, so that's how we're going to do it. So we're going to just launch this into orbit as a normal launch. And I pressed 1 to lock the gimbaling to stabilize the whole thing, because all of these engines gimbaling would make it really unstable going into orbit. And because we have all these engines, we don't need full throttle right away anyway. So yeah, 1 key for those playing with this craft file is locking the gimbal, and 2 is deploying the solar panels in the future. So deploying or detaching the first 2 rockets, first fuel tanks, and we just have the 4 engines on the side and this one on the bottom. Now I'm not going to turn over at the 500 or 600,000, now 6,000 meters as usual, but I'm gonna wait until we detach the next stage, just so we don't get any trouble with the staging or fuel tanks landing on us. But once that's done, around 9,000, 10,000, we are going to turn over, and this is going to be a little brutal launch, I guess you could call it. It won't be the most efficient, but as I said, this rocket is built with a lot of fuel. We'll have more than enough fuel once we get into orbit, so it really shouldn't be a problem. So let's zoom in on the map again so we can see our apoapse, and it's steadily climbing. We need to get some horizontal velocity too, but yeah, we have so much fuel that we are not going to get all stressed out from trying to save fuel with this thing. So the nice thing with asparagus staging is that when we dropped all these boosters, these are all full still. So that's how we get all this fuel into orbit, is that once all the fuel tanks on the sides are gone, we still have this whole rocket full of fuel, and the atmosphere is pretty low, so we get a lot of fuel out of the last 3 tanks. So we are going for 100,000, and I see we have a little, well, not enough sideways momentum, so I'm just going to burn right at 90 degrees. You want this to be as far apart as possible, if that makes sense. You want to have as much speed sideways as you can once you get to your apoapse, because your downwards velocity will all disappear or dissipate. That's 100, and it's good enough, I guess. It's not 100% optimized, but we still have a lot of fuel. We still have this and 1/4 of this, so it really doesn't matter. So let's warp up to our apoapse and just do a normal circularization burn from there. So yeah, left it a little bit too late. This rocket is quite heavy, but it's still controllable once you get it on, or get your engines on. And we are just going to make this nice and circular. And you can see we still have this whole fuel tank left, and we are almost circularized. So maybe we can just use the maybe we will have enough fuel to use these engines to do our start of our Kerbin escape. So we're in orbit. It's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going for Jool as soon as possible. So going to Jool, out here, 98 degrees about. We will have to burn on the dark side of the planet. Now, because this is a long burn, I don't want to put it directly on the 90 degrees, but I want to put it a little bit behind. Also, if you go on the website I put in the description, you will see the optimal place to burn from Kerbin. But doing that very, very accurate is you will save a little bit of fuel. So if you have tight fuel restrictions, it will help you. But we have so much fuel, so we don't bother. So yeah, that's periapse with Jool, and I'm just going to bring this a little bit down. There we go. So in 20 minutes we are heading to Jool, and this rocket is so heavy, so it will take some time to turn. We have a little bit of RCS, but we don't want to waste too much because we are going all the way to the other side of the solar system with this, and we want to save as much RCS fuel as possible. Don't want to waste it on this large fuel tank. But we will probably get pretty far by just flying like this. So let's warp to our node and get ready for our interplanetary mission. And one more thing I almost forgot, which could be a disaster on any interplanetary mission with a drone, it's the solar panels. As you can see, we've already gotten pretty low on our power, so we want to get as much solar panels or sun on those panels as soon as possible to recharge those batteries. So I'm not sure what uses so much electricity right now. Guess maybe the SAS or something. Nope. Blocked by the fuel tank. Direct sunlight. So yeah, just trying to push this a little bit around so we can charge the batteries. I think that will do it. So yeah, our space station, that's not it. There we have our Interplanetary Rover tutorial. Isn't that a nice name? Seeing NASA having the Curiosity Rover tutorial Mars mission. This is learning guys to go to the planet Mars. That would be kind of fun. But back to the mission, we are on the dark side and running out of electricity fast for some weird reason. Doesn't use that much electricity. But okay, we start the engines and our interplanetary mission is on the way. So I'm just being a little bit careful with the throttle on this last stage, because in the vacuum the mainsail engine is really powerful and can destroy the ship into a million pieces, and that would be sad. So destaging that and toggling the SAS, and this is the only thing I didn't like with this ship. It starts to rotate once you stage it, but since we have the mainsail engines, it doesn't matter that we have to do some time to correct for the rotation at the staging here. It's probably just something bumping into each other. I really haven't bothered looking into it, to be honest. And we can test the lights of our rover. It's working nicely. And that's all we got out of that tank, and that will be fine. So just pushing ourselves away, and we can give full throttle. So now we are on the nuclear engines, on the interplanetary stage, and as you can see, this launch stage and everything has gotten us pretty far into the solar system. We have definitely passed Duna, so we could have gone to Duna, no problem. So now we are continuing on these fuel tanks, and it's gonna be a burn for about 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining. So let's just time warp this. No, not time warp. Oh, I pressed the wrong keys. Time warping a little bit. And I don't understand why the electricity is going down that much, because there isn't anything using power. And 2.4 is a lot. So I think I'll just save here and then just try to reload the space. So yeah, we can see now we're using a lot less power than we did earlier. But the bad thing is that we don't have a lot of power remaining. And we lost the maneuver marker, but we're still locked on to the heading, so we'll just continue until we get to Jool, or we see the encounter with Jool here. So yeah, typical that you get a bug or something when recording, but it's all working fine now. And I guess something happened with the physics warp or something that made the batteries still use a lot of power, but really not doing so. And we're just pushing this. We're pushing the periapse as low as we can before it starts going up again. Just doing some small burning intervals, watching the periapse going down. And finally we get some sunlight on those solar panels, so we're getting electricity. So mission is saved. And we can just flip this a little bit round, because now we're just going to warp until Jool. So what I usually do then before start warping to the planet is to face my solar panels so that they will be rotating towards the sun all the time. And we will warp up to here somewhere, and we'll do some last corrections for Jool. And that will take a couple of minutes, so I'll just speed that up for you. So yeah, see you guys when we approach Jool. So we are a few weeks away from Jool, or 76 days to our periapse and 61 days till the encounter. And we are going to do some, or start to do some changes towards Jool. And as you can see, our periapse is quite high above Jool. Now, the farther away you do the changes, the more efficient they'll be. So we are going to start here at 61 days away. And first we're going to lower this, and I think we're going to try to get a more equatorial orbit with Jool than normally maybe would have. So we're gonna lock it here to 180, which is down, because we are too high above Jool, so we want to go further down. So let's start by doing that, pushing our apoapse to be on the same level as Jool about. And we're gonna try a small trick I haven't done before, but I just thought of that could give us a better encounter with Jool. Because normally I would stop right here where we are at the equator and go for it, but you would still have the inclination once you get to Jool. So we are going to put the app-waps down on Jool's orbit about there, and once we get here we will line up again, because we have so much fuel we can do this, and we can try to get a more equatorial encounter with Jool, and that I think will save us a lot of fuel and time once we get encountered by Jool. But that's mostly speculation at this stage. So not going backwards. You saw that the separation went the wrong way, so we are just going to get the encounter again, so we'll have that to look at. And there we go. And yes, the approach is going down. That's nice. It's good. Just pushing ourselves into an encounter with Jool. So not quite there. I guess we have an encounter with Kerbin again. So we could go back to Kerbin now if mission had failed. But hopefully this mission isn't doomed a failure yet. So we're just going to get our encounter again. So we're just gonna mess a little bit around with our orbits, and I think we're pretty close to getting an encounter now. No. Let's see. I'm trying to get this last distance all closed up. So yeah, the nuclear engines, not as fast and not as powerful, but they are definitely efficient, seeing that we still are using these, and we haven't used half of these since we left Kerbin. So plenty of fuel left. If this had been the mail sail engines, we would probably have about nothing left, I think. So yeah, that looks to be on the line of Jool. I think we're gonna go for it there. So yeah, to try to explain what I'm thinking or doing right now, if you haven't already spotted it, is that I'm trying to get down to Jool here, right at the encounter, and then we can level off and fly with Jool from there, because usually I would aim my encounter or getting level with Jool or another planet right at the planet, but that means you have to level out when you're at the planet, and first off it requires a lot of energy, and you also don't have a lot of time since you are doing a lot of aerobraking and capturing maneuvers. So to make it, or what I hope will be simpler, we are gonna do it here instead when we get the encounter and we can see Jool a little bit better, and that will hopefully save us some fuel and also make it a little bit easier to circularize around Jool, in theory. But this is Kerbal Space Program, so theory can be thrown out the window at any moment. But yeah, seeing Jool coming up from behind us, I don't think we can see it here yet, no. So yeah, the nice orbit, inclined orbit, we would get if we got shot out. So yeah, captured by Jool, and we can see that our inclination, if we circularized around Jool right now, would be pretty awful. So we want to correct that, and that means going upwards, I guess. Looks like it, because we want to push this up. So if that is correct, we want to go for a northern burn, if I have thought this correctly. So a little bit too much, using the 2 times warp to, or physics warp to make it easier to do the navigation, since it's a little slow. And let's see if this climbs up, and yes it does. So for those who don't know, to physics warp you use the Alt key and just the normal physics or the normal time warp buttons. Normally when you're inside an atmosphere, the physics warp will be activated automatically, but if you're in space you can do this by clicking Alt. So I'm using the orbits from the other planets here to try to get an alignment, and I think that's pretty good. A little bit more. There we go. Hopefully that's good enough. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to push these periapse into Jool, or closer to Jool, because we are going to use Jool's atmosphere to slow down and be captured by Jool. So how do we do this? Well, we are not going to do a retrograde burn, because that would defeat the whole purpose of doing an aerobrake. So instead we are going to try to point our spacecraft in this direction, so it points towards Jool, and we'll just move our trajectory so it hits the atmosphere around Jool and then starts going around and dissipating all that energy. But what direction is that? That is the big question. So I think we're just gonna try 180 degrees for the first one, if I turn the right way. Oh wait, not 180, 270 degrees I mean. So that's there, and let's see if that will push it closer to Jool. So no, it hasn't slid out. Yes, and that turned out to be the right way. So lucky first guess. So finally today a good guess. And we are just gonna put this into Jool's atmosphere, and Jool's atmosphere starts at 150,000 meters, but we need to go lower than that because we will have a lot of energy to burn out when we get to Jool. First off, we will get a lot of speed getting closer to Jool, because Jool is a big planet and it will give us has a lot of gravity and will pull us in at high speed. So as you can see, we have to do some inclination. Oh yes, I forgot to turn the SAS on. I'm sorry. So we'll just have to point ourselves a little south just to correct me pushing the wrong SAS buttons. And we're gonna cheat and use time travel, I almost called it, time warp, to cancel out that spin. So we're just using this to bring it straight again. Something like that, I think. So yeah, that looks about good enough. And because we're so far out, you can actually use the RCS thrusters to do a lot of changes, because we're so far out. And then we are going to do the last bit of getting this, the last couple of million meters down. But you can already see that the SAS, even the SAS, has an effect on the on our altitude or our periapse. So I think we will be fine by using the RCS thrusters for this last bit. Not sure if we have enough, but maybe. No, let's use the engines just to be on the safe side. So, and we're also pointing wrong. We are supposed to go for 179. So yeah, that is the right direction. So right now you can see I use very little throttle, and it pushes us down about 50,000 meters at the time. So now that we are starting to get really close, we have to go over to to the RCS, and even that is a little bit powerful. So we have to go, excuse me. So we have to go over to fine controls. So yeah, fine controls to get ourselves at about 19. Let's go for a little bit lower. We want to give ourselves enough room to maneuver there. So yeah, a couple of thousand meters difference at our periaps here can mean anything from, I think, like 25 will shoot you right or straight back into space, and 15,000 will kill you. So find somewhere in between. That is the clue. So let's quick save in case I mock up. And here is a little tip. It's not relevant to the travel kind of, but okay, just focus on Jools instead. When time warping closer to Jools, be very careful, because your spacecraft, once it gets closer to Jools, will start speeding up quite a lot. If you watch my orbital speed, and it will be so high when it gets close to the periaps that the computer won't have the time to react until you're shot out into space again to say that you're warping too fast. So that's just one thing to keep in mind when approaching Jools, that you don't want to shoot out on the other side again, because you, like now, we had 200 meters per second when we were approaching Jools, and now we're almost at 900,000 meters per second when entering the atmosphere. So right before the atmosphere now, I'm just seeing if I can put this in a retrograde position. The only reason is, or there's two reasons. One, if I have too much speed when starting to go out again, we can use the engines to correct that. And the other thing, that this spacecraft wants to go backwards through the atmosphere, so to stop it flipping around and maybe braking once we hit the atmosphere, we just done precautions of putting it in retrograde position already. So yeah, now we get to watch a fiery show. Should probably have played Burning Ring of Fire or something by Johnny Cash for this. Let's have some cinematic view, and we have the sun in the background. That looks... Oh, and I don't know which planet that is. I don't think that's Jools. It's not close enough. Or planet, I'm sorry. Moon. Moon. Focus, focus. We're flying through the atmosphere of a gas giant. We can't lose focus now. So yeah, if this was real, this would probably burn up and most of the rover parts will break. And I don't remember what satellite or which gas giant it was. I thought of it earlier today, but I've forgotten right now. When NASA sent a probe there, they sent it to do an aerobraking maneuver. Well, I wonder if it was Saturn. No, I'm not sure. And maybe it was Jupiter. Oh, whatever, I don't remember. The heat shield, I think, weighed almost 100 tons. And when they get out of the... when they left the atmosphere again, I think they had lost like 75 or 80% of the total mass of the heat shield. So if this heat actually had an effect, I think we'll just have the parachutes left.
So let's watch the map to see that we don't crash into the ground again. And you can see our apoapse is going down quite rapidly. And we're getting some encounters. But we're now starting to leave the atmosphere again. So that means we have gotten our encounter, and that we will not crash into Jool most likely. So just to give ourselves some extra help, we're going to use the engines once we leave the atmosphere here, and bring our apoapse closer to Laythe's orbit. And actually it looks like we got in a pretty good orbit. We have to do some small changes, like 1.6 degrees difference. So that's not too bad, coming from all the way from Kerbin. I think that's not too shabby. And we still have like half of these fuel tanks left. So we can waste a lot of fuel flying around here, finding the perfect place for Laythe. So yeah, just bringing the periapse down to about 21,000, I think is the magic number, yes. So 21,000 there. And once we get to our ascending node, we're just going to cancel out these last 0.60 degrees, since Laythe does since Laythe's gravity is not too high or too strong. We're just going to make it as easy as possible. So it's an ascending node. That means we're going upwards, I think. Yeah, that means we are going to cancel that out by going down. I think that would be, yes, it's going down. So let's just get it to the exact point to make it as efficient. Whoops. Let's focus back on the craft. There we go. So still focused on Jool, and that make the scrolling a bit sensitive. So just full throttle and bringing this down to hopefully around 0, close to 0. 0.1, just a little bit more. Now I'm just being pedantic, I know, but why not? We have the possibility, we have the technology. We do have the technology to do this. We can go in, we can fly to different planets, so why not be a little pedantic on the way? Pedantic, that's came out all tongue-tied. So finally we have to bring our periapse out of Jool's atmosphere, because if we re-enter Jool now, we are most likely going to crash into Jool, and I don't think that would be too good. That would kill our rover and we would have nothing to drive on, because a gas giant doesn't have anywhere to drive. No roads on a gas giant, I guess you can call it. So what I'm hoping for now is to get the periapse at a good position where Laythe will have caught up with our rover on its next orbit, or when we have finished one orbit it will have caught up with us. So we're just bringing these closer, and I think we can physics warp a little bit. This went really slow, really slow. So let's see how much fuel are in these tanks. So like 1/3 left. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Closest approach. There we go. So yeah, I don't think that's perfect perfect encounter yet, but I think we can get a periapse here somewhere. We'll just have to go a little backwards and forwards to see when we get a nice periapse here at Laythe. Okay. Are you going to give me a periapse somewhere? So now we're doing a kind of flip-flop, I think we can call it. Strange orbit it is anyway, so yeah. Let's just keep pushing this a little bit and hopefully we can get... There, it starts to go the right way. So now all we need is a periapse. That would be nice. It looks like it's going around, but it hasn't given me a periapse yet. I would like that very much. Come on. There. 50,000 meters. That's good. Quick save and time warp around. Being a little bit careful so we don't fly through Laythe's encounter, because this is by far probably the best encounter I had with Laythe. Not that it is saying a lot because I've only been here once or twice. Okay, so next step, getting captured by Laythe. And we're gonna do this in the same way as Jools. So we're really getting a practice in aero braking today, so that's good. And we're doing it the same way. That means we have to find the heading that's pointing towards the planet. And I'm still going for 180, hoping that it is the magic number today. And it's not. So... yes, then we'll go for 90 degrees. Kind of logical, yes, I know, but just having to make sure I don't screw up anything. Actually, I think the 90 degrees will that... I'm just thinking of our inclination. We could flatten that out. That would be the 180 degrees. So yeah, as I said, thinking things through. We are probably going to head for not 180 but 270. That's the number. So yeah, the same as Jools, but in my head for some reason I was thinking of 180. So there we go. 170. And the magic number to look for now is 19,000. Around there somewhere. That is what I found on my last trip to Laythe. That worked pretty good. It wasn't the perfect orbit, but going any lower you would not get out again. Or if you were a little off, you wouldn't get out again. So yeah, there we go. Let's see if we can fix this inclination, and that will just be a continuation of this direction, I guess. Saving as much RCS fuel as we can. You probably could have a little bit more RCS fuel on this vessel, I guess, but overall I think it's pretty good. It's has so much fuel to give us. Okay, apparently not 180. Strange. 180 is down, so wouldn't that... oh no, we are going down and then we're going up. Yes, we want to go up so that we flatten down. Talking to myself to make it logical, I guess. So, there we go. Could hopefully get this leveled out. That'll make it a lot easier to find a place to land, since you don't have to think so much of the rotation of the planet. That looks perfect. Quick save and let's go for re-entry. So I had to take a quick break, and after that quick break and trying to clear out my voice, which totally failed, I realized that we are approaching Laythe at a lower speed than I did in my test run. So I think we're going to push this up quite a lot, because last time I came at a quite high velocity into Laythe atmosphere. I had about 3,500 meters per second, and we are not gonna have that this time. So I think we're gonna go for something around there, and we're out of RCS, so that's where our periaps will be. So I'm just going to point this retrograde for the same reasons as last time, and we are going to get rid of these fuel tanks, because even though there's a little bit of fuel left, we really don't need that fuel. This fuel we have in these two fuel tanks will get us probably to every moon around Jool. So we are just going to land here at Laythe anyway, so why carry all that unnecessary load around when we can just ditch it here in the atmosphere and it will burn up. So yeah, I think the re-entry effect should start any moment, and our camera has been captured by Laythe at least. And I think it's around 28,000 maybe. It starts a little bit lower. So yeah, we're definitely going slower than I did on my test run. So I think it's a good thing that we went a little bit higher, and hopefully this will get us a nice circular, or not circular orbit, but get us on a nice orbit around Laythe. So let's ditch those fuel tanks and watch them burn next to our Rover transport vessel. It's gotten quite a bit smaller since we left our launch pad on Kerbin. A lot of rockets or materials gone into getting this small rover to Laythe. So we're starting to exit the atmosphere again, and that looks like a good thing, because our apoapse is coming in quite fast still. So I hope we'll get far enough out that our apoapse doesn't go inside the atmosphere. That would be kind of bad. That would mean we would stay in the atmosphere forever and land on the ground, or actually in the oceans, to be exact in this case, because I don't think we would have much luck on hitting particular land on this place. It looks like a toll shot. And I'm going to use the engines just a little bit to bring this a little bit down, hopefully not too much. I think that will do. We will get out of the atmosphere any second now, and we can use the engines just to push our periaps up and our apoapse down. So we'll get an orbit around 100, I think. That will make it easier to get a spot to land. Actually, I think we could go straight for a landing right here. We can take a look at that once we leave the atmosphere any second now. And the fuel tanks, they are gonna come back and deorbit in the atmosphere. Or since they are probably now running on rails in the game, they will not. But if we go over to them, physics will kick in and push them down, capture them. So 35, come on, get out of there. 112, it's really slowing down now, so that's a good thing. And we can start preparing to circularize around Laythe. And I'm going to start that by just pointing straight up and getting... No, wait. Yes, we probably want to raise our app perhaps a little bit before we do that. And we're not going to point straight up, we're going to point straight down, because we're going to push down the apps. So I could probably have saved this maneuver I'm doing right now if I had done the small reverse earlier, but it's easy to look behind you and see what you can have done better. When you well, at the time it looked like a good idea, or it felt like a good idea. So there, and we're just gonna push our periapse out of the atmosphere, and we're gonna do that by pointing down to the ground. That means we're gonna push our apps down, but because we're carrying all our sideways velocity or our horizontal velocity with us, our periapse will climb. So some strange physics going on. I'm not sure how to explain it, but the idea is that you keep your velocity sideways and you kind of push down your apps, and that means that your periapse is coming up. I guess is a way to explain it. I don't know if that made any sense at all. But that doesn't matter, because we can go in for a landing right here. But first we're doing a quick save in case I muck up. Okay, we're still in physics warp. Could be nice to start warping kind of now. I want to land over here. I don't want to physics warp all the way over there. That would take a long time. Could land here at the... kind of looks like a dead head or a skull, or maybe a seahorse. Depends how you look at it. Kind of fun to look at things and see what you associate with it. It kind of looks like a big head with a hole in the middle. But people see probably different things when you look at this. You could please leave a comment and say what do you think these things look like. That looked like a shoe, woman's shoe maybe. Okay, enough talking and warping. So what I found out on my test run was that from 100,000 meters orbit it was kind of nice going pretty straight for our landing spot because the atmosphere is so low. But we are at almost, well, 1/3 or 2/3 of the way up, so I guess we'll just have to try something. And I think I left it a little bit late to land there now, so I think this will just be getting our positions in order and just doing one more orbit to get perfect on landing on this face. I'm gonna call it the face. No, I'm not. It doesn't look like a face. Oh, this looks like a smile with 3 eyes, big head, rhino on the top. Something at least. If you're really good on landing in an atmosphere, you could probably land on that small island. I think I'll have enough trouble hitting this part, so we are not gonna try that. But we should... oh, we have to do the physics warp again. And all the way... oh my god. What can we do for improving that? That is way too long. Let's go up. Up, up, up. Let's climb. Wanna go up. Probably bring our maps. Let's bring the maps to where we want. is a good spot of descending. And I think it was 55. No, yes it was. Very nice. Okay, so this time we are going for it, and hopefully it will work out, and we will land at on land, on dry land, and not in the big ocean or in the ocean. This moon is kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of extraordinary, because you would think it would be so cold all the way out here that seas would freeze. So maybe it's water of some different substance, I don't know. But it doesn't have an atmosphere, and the sun will heat it a little bit, but I think we're so far away it should probably be a big ice ball. But I'm not criticizing for realism, because I love that we have another water planet. That is something I wish we had. In the real solar system, it would be so cool if we could do some terraforming on Mars and get that to, yeah, actually make it possible to live there and have water and everything. So, just bringing this. I'm gonna bring it to somewhere on the line. I think we're getting closer to like right here, because we're going pretty steep in at our landing. And the reason why we can do this is that we have such a high density atmosphere at Laythe that it really doesn't matter. What was I gonna say now? That didn't make any sense. That sounded in my good thing. Well, back to the subject. It has a such a high density atmosphere that you don't have to approach it as you do on Duna, because Duna you kind of want to skim through the atmosphere as long as possible to lose as much velocity as possible. But really here on Laythe we don't need to do that, because the atmosphere is so thick that you will lose quite a lot of speed quite rapidly, quite quickly. And you can, like, we have the drogue chute, so we're just gonna use that to keep ourselves pointing the right direction. And we're probably gonna land here somewhere. Looks like a crater right there in the middle. That would be kind of cool to explore. Or maybe the small lake over there. So I'm just preparing the drogue, and we get rid of this, and it's just a rover on the way down. And yeah, maybe getting it a little bit under control, because now we don't have any SAS units. So there is the chute and the re-entry effects. Also perfectly natural with a burning parachute. But once again, not criticizing, I'm loving this game anyway. I don't think KSP should have too much realism, because that would ruin it, but it should be on the borderline. It shouldn't be arcade out. I love how it is right now. And once they get done doing some of the physics, reworking on some of the physics on aerodynamics and how the physics engine works, yeah, I think the game will be awesome. Or awesomer. You can build these huge things. That would be great. Because even with my computer, which I think is pretty powerful, it starts lagging with the docking port. Docking ports. If you build a whole station at once, it really doesn't matter. But if you build them with the docking ports, they start lagging a lot. So yeah, we are safely approaching the surface of a moon around Jools. And even though it's quite a far away, we're pretty in the middle of everything interesting to see, but in the middle of nowhere. So we can drive anywhere we like, but we didn't land on anything interesting, so we have to drive there. Now I'm not using these parachutes yet because it's going pretty slow already. Let's time warp. And I think they only do a little bit, or a very small difference, so we're going to deploy them when we get closer to the ground, like right before landing. So yeah, now we're going to deploy them, and I wonder how high up these sand dunes are. They look pretty awesome. 4 meters per second, that's slow. Let's time that up to 4, or we're gonna sit there all night watching this spaghetti of parachutes land. So yeah, we actually got our rover to Laythe, and I hope you guys have learned a lot in this tutorial, and I hope it hasn't been too much mocking about, and that you get your own rovers to different planets and moons around the solar the Kerbal system. So last thing, to get rid of the sky crane, just power it up and watch it fly. So yeah, this rover has now been on Duna, Minmus, the moon, and now on Laythe. So it can pretty much go anywhere, and I think it's a good all-around vehicle. It doesn't have any scientific mission, but it is educational on how to get to places. And I hope you guys enjoy the craft file I include, because well, not because, but I made it pretty. As you've seen, we had never had a fuel problem. It has had more than enough fuel the whole time, and it should be pretty easy to fly around and experience with, or play around with. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But I'll see you guys next time, and hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Wearing Storms signing off.